Welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 181, Look for a Sign. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Anderson.
Good morning and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Anderson and I'm the host. And I'm here this morning in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 181 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. I hope that you had an amazing weekend and so happy that you joined us today. It is the first Monday of December and it's December. I can't believe the year's almost over and we're rounding out 2021. I'm looking forward to whatever 2022 will be. Wow, what a crazy, amazing year. And yeah.
It has been. I tell you, it has been for me too. For everyone I speak with, this has been a year unlike any other. I mean, the last two have really. And of course, nothing ever is really repeating itself. But, you know, it always feels like I'll say pre-pandemic, it felt as if we knew what was next on the journey. But the truth is, friends, we never knew.
That's true.
And I think we were a little bit asleep and thinking everything was always going to be as it always had been. You know, things change and times they are changing and careers and places we work is a changing. And boy, we've all been through, everyone really associated with this show, both hosts, producers. Oh, there's been so many changes in our lives over the last 2 years. So, friends, we're in it with you. It's not like, it's just happening to me.
Right.
It's happening to all of us.
That's right. Yeah, it's just been a real time of change for us, and and just really leaning on God and trusting the universe has our back.
Yes.
And it's never not before. And every time that we've made a leap, it's not just getting caught. There's always something even better for our souls on the other side. And so we're trusting in that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that's all we can do, dear friend, is to trust the next step and move forward with faith. And sometimes we need a little help on the journey. And that's exactly what today is about. Today's title is, Dave, you want to give us the title?
Today's title for 181 is Look for a Sign. Look for a sign.
Look for a sign. Yeah. Yeah. Look for a sign. Well, why would I be doing this in the month of December? Look for a sign. Any ideas, Dave? Why would I be doing this in December?
Well, probably
Look for a sign.
Maybe it has something to do with some astrologers, you know. Some would call them wise.
Some would call them men.
Some would call them men,
well.
You know.
Yeah, I'm sure it was wise men.
Some magi looking for a sign.
Right.
That would be my guess as we approach
exactly
the time of Advent and the holidays and Christmas season.
Yes, exactly right.
And I mean, I know the marketing has been in Christmas for a month now, but now that we're officially in December, I think it's okay for everybody to get on board.
Well, I'm not sure why. I was thinking about Christmas in October this year. I always love the Christmas holiday. I love the cheesiness of it. I love the tradition. I love the serenity and the peace of it, you know, and so, yes, I'm relating it to an aspect of the Christmas story, which is, if you're Christian, is when as Dave said, the wise men, quote unquote, that we hear about in the Bible, we know, in fact, they were astrologers. They were the studiers of the stars, as everyone would have been during that time. You know, we forget that, you know, there used to be a real profound connection to the natural world that we are losing. It seems like every year we lose a little more of that with the advent of all this technology. But it used to be that the stars were looked at to, know what weather patterns were coming. You know, you studied the cloud formations. In this case, it was astrologers studying the stars and seeing a very bright star. And of course, even astrologers tell us, yes, there was, in fact, at that time, a very specific star, that was bright in the sky. Well, you would think everyone would have followed a star like that, but you know what? Get this. Maybe not everybody was paying attention.
Or
maybe not everybody was looking.
Maybe some people called it fake news, or some people, were star deniers.
Star deniers. Right. Well, and so in our journey, oftentimes when we're headed towards something better, we need signs along the way, So it's always been helpful to me to realize the universe is interested in my journey. Now, here's what I mean. When I set my intention or when I set any goal, I have a specific outcome in mind, and I am taking actions. I am, praying about, I am focused on a certain direction. If I'm heading that direction and I'm not getting signs of one kind or another, then that causes me to pause. Now, having said this, here's what I want you to hear me say is that I'm not saying only look for signs. I'm saying first be clear about your direction. First be clear about, what is next for you. And then you look for affirmation that you're heading the right direction. So looking for a sign is getting outward affirmation for what you already know internally. The first person I heard talk about this in a really clear way, he's become very known as a speaker and lecturer. His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe, I first saw him, it's like in the early 2000s in the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And it was a group of researchers and scientists. And Dr. Joe is actually a chiropractor. He's been a chiropractor for, I don't know what now, over 30 years, I guess. And he's also done a lot of research on the brain. And he talks a lot about how how you can change, even affect healing in your own mind, body, and soul, by working first. He starts with thoughts. But what he said in What the Bleep that I will never forget, and this is not the exact statement, okay, but this is the gist, is that he was talking about every morning he got up, he would set his intention for the day, and it would be about somehow seeing a sign that the universe was paying attention. And the sign for him, it wasn't like an instant manifestation. It would be somebody saying something that has to do with, where he's heading, or it would be maybe a feather that fell right in his path. It's like, okay, that's for me. So when you're engaged with the universe, there is this constant, almost constant rather, conversation that's going back and forth. It's like you set your intention and you look for a sign. As you receive the sign, it affirms your direction and intention. And then that intention deepens. It becomes a deeply held belief. Sometimes even I'll use the word conviction. But the sign serves as literally a signpost that you're headed the right direction. Now we have that on Siri. This is like the Siri of spirituality. Which way do I go next? And I think for most of us, the skill to be able to recognize and then follow signs is a little underdeveloped. And I want to encourage you to begin to work with the universe in looking for a sign. And I have a dear friend who's has a big job as a lawyer. And even though she works for a huge firm, what I always hear in her stories to me are her sacred intentions she takes before talking to these clients. Some of the biggest corporations in the world, and her intention is so simple. But what then shows up at the table is this desire to get it done, this desire to have everyone leave happy. Anybody who's ever been in litigation knows that rarely happens. But she's serving them at a different level than just the level of the physical. And then she gets back signs, right? Through communication, through, what's the word? Mediation rather than litigation, you see? So because she's been on the spiritual journey a long time, she really knows how to look for signs.
Yeah. One of the things that I've talked about 818 before. I mean, that manifested itself not because of my love of the book of Deuteronomy, but which is
it's
really,
not one you just read every day.
It's really, really not. It's pretty dense legal book. But it was seeing the number 818 showing up.
Yes.
And Mindy Corporan, another host here on the channel, calls those God winks, but that they're really, it's like the universe kind of trying to get your attention. And so seeing the number 818, and so then kind of digging further into that. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, right now this is a real period of change just for me and for Shannon. We've stepped away from CCU after I'd been there eight years. Shannon had been there 6.5 years.
It's been a long time.
Has been a really long time. And leading up to that, Shannon was seeing specifically the number 3 and the number 313, 313. And so what that's meant for her about like the number 313 being a symbol of progress and moving forward, and there's a difficult period and trusting your intuition, trusting your inner wisdom, and so that's numbers have been something that between Shannon and I have been pretty consistent. Like weird times, like I'm just going to check the time, boom. 818. I'm driving, and I just
818.
Happens to be 818, and with Shannon, the numbers 3 and 313 recently, especially within the last 3 or 4 months.
Well, and often in numerology, when you get 3 in a row like that, if you add those together, 313 is a 7, and 7 is the number of creation. It's considered a very, very spiritual number, and of course, 3 is also a very spiritual number. Because how long was Jonah in the whale? 3 days. Mm-hmm. How long was Jesus in the tomb? 3 days. So that 3 is a number of transformation. And that's a great sign, actually.
Yeah. So I would encourage you, if you're driving and you start seeing a number showing up repeatedly.
Exactly.
Maybe kind of perk your ears up and do a little digging. Do you know of any good resources that we can kind of point people to? And this might be something.
Let me. The book is called. I think it's called. I'll double check it at the break. The Life You Were Born to Live.
Okay.
And we'll get you some information on that. It's a great book on numerology.
All right. Yep, I've got it. That's by Dan Millman.
Yeah, Dan Millman. So Dan Millman was a gymnast. He had a spiritual awakening, and there's a movie about him called The Peaceful Warrior. And that is his book. His original book was called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
All right, so we'll definitely have a link to that in our show notes.
Yeah, most definitely. And this is great. This is exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. I haven't told this story in a long time, and I was talking to a friend the other day who said, will you tell me that story about the rock? And so I'm going to tell it now because there's a lot of people probably that haven't heard about it. So, and it was funny because it was around Christmas time that it happened. But this was about 25 years ago now. And so I had recently been on a silent retreat in Kansas. There's a little place there. It's a horse barn that's been converted to a retreat center. And it's real kind of bare bones in terms of the place. And I went there for a silent retreat. It was 3 days, I think. And I was new to a silent retreat, so I I brought all this food. I was going to do all this healthy eating and cooking, and I was going to be so conscious. And anyway, and I walked in, I prepared all my food, I ground all my coffee, and I thought, okay, well, that was the first half hour. Now what am I going to do? So anyway, it was I was laughing at myself. Anyway, I found myself upstairs in the barn, and there was a huge bookcase. And I was standing in front of the bookcase, and I thought, maybe I'm supposed to do some reading. Some people say, no, don't read on silent retreats, but I was really guided to that area. And I think I'd already, done my meditation and stuff. And it was so weird because I was in silence the whole time. It's like, well, what am I meditating for? Every moment is like a meditation. So I'd done my meditation. I go up to this bookcase and I'm looking, and a book jumps off the shelf. I could not, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And I pull it down, and it's a book about the great teacher in India named Sai Baba. And I'd never heard of Sai Baba at that time. I'd heard of Paramahansa Yogananda. I'd read a lot about the teachers in the East, but I had no idea who Sai Baba was. And I learned through the reading that Sai Baba, yes, was an avatar, a teacher, a guru. And the stories in this book seemed pretty amazing. They were written by some of his disciples. And as I read, I started coming to the awareness that Sai Baba was doing miracles in today's world that Jesus had done, including what's called bilocating. In other words, being in two places at once. I'd never heard anything like this. And, as a little girl from Red Oak, Georgia, excuse me, I'm saying to myself, is this for real? And I began to doubt almost immediately, because spiritually, I'm not one that, reads something about, other dimensions and goes, yay, let's jump right in. I go, I don't know. I tend to be cynical in my approach to spiritual things, because a lot of people I've noticed over the years that claim to be spiritual, it's all about them. And so I'm very, very slow to take on a new spiritual idea, but I'm always very interested to read about it and see what people are thinking and feeling. Anyway, so I started reading this Sai Baba book. Well, there were a number of books, and I read them all weekend. And so I came back from, this retreat, and I'm sitting on my little apartment. It's freezing cold because I'm living in Kansas City. And there was a story in there by one of his disciples, and it said they were in a prayer meeting, and in the prayer meeting, they were praying to Sai Baba, and a rock fell out through the ceiling into the guy's hand, and the rock was from the Ganges River. And I thought, I said, man, is this really happening? I said, either I have lost my mind or there's really something to this. I mean, I was at such a choice point in my belief system. I was in ministerial school at the time. I was moving into full-time ministry. I was working at the church, and I had already questioned so much of my beliefs. And of course, that's what the whole ministerial journey is. I felt like I went into a rock tumbler at the beginning of, ministerial school, and I came out maybe a little more shiny at the end. But it tries to break down your beliefs. It tries to break you down. That was the old system anyway. I think they're doing it. Maybe they're a little more evolved now. I don't know. But it was trying to almost break down your beliefs so that you could figure out what it was you believed. Anyway, so I was in the middle of all that. I just come off all the silence. And I was like, okay, either this is real or, I'm the biggest sucker in the world. And so I put out my arm. I said, okay, God, I'm going to put out my arm and you bring me my rock from the Ganges River if this is real. Because if you can do it for him, why can't you do it for me? If I don't get a rock, I am not going to ever believe in a single thing I read about Sai Baba or all this crazy stuff about the East. I'm not going to believe it. Because if it works for this guy, it should work for me, or it's not spiritual truth. Well, I held my arm out for about an hour and a half and nothing happened. And I said, okay, I give you 24 hours. This is me saying to God, I swear, friends, that may be egoic. I say to God, I'm giving you 24 hours. Well, that said, I went into work the next morning. So this is about 9 or 10 at night, when I said this. So I go into work the next morning, and it's Christmas time, and there's a big secret Santa thing going on. And I go to my mailbox, and there's a little gift in there. And I was like, oh, this is great. I don't know who this is from. And I start to walk down the hall, and a woman from her office says, hey, come here. You forgot something. I said, this is supposed to be Secret Santa. You're not supposed to tell me what you're putting in my mailbox. She goes, no. I forgot the most important thing. And I said, oh, yeah? So I went to her office. This was a minister named Reverend Nancy Jerome. And I went into her office, and she said, open it. I want you to open it right now. And I opened the box. Standing in her office, I opened the box, and I go, what is it? Because it was not like anything I'd seen before. I said, what is it? She said, it's a rock. I said, a rock. She goes, yeah, it's a rock from the Ganges River. Yeah. You see how long ago it was? You hear in my voice my tears. Happy and proud to share that with you. Still today, I'm amazed by that story and that connection. And so with that, we'll go to a quick break, and we'll be back right after these messages. Hello. My name is Cynthia Anderson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. We are now completing 3 years of being on the air, and I wanted to personally thank you for all of your support. As a listener, as you share the podcast on your social media pages, and for your financial support. We would not be where we are today without this amazing support, which is in over 80 countries and 150,000 downloads worldwide. So I thank you, dear friend. I'm grateful we get to walk this journey together, and I cannot wait to see what we're able to do in another 3 years. Thank you again, dear friend, and blessings on the journey. Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. And I'll tell you that story, that rock from the Ganges River, this friend of mine who I've known for a really long time, she says she thinks about it all the time because her story to me was that it helps her believe anything is possible, and so as I said, I'm not sure I recommend testing the universe. If you don't bring this in 24 hours, I'm not going to believe it. But maybe that is exactly what you need to do. I love being in this intimate relationship with the universe. And I think that's what we all want. That's what we're all seeking. And I hope that story was helpful to you to know, if we can conceive of it, it can be. Right? That we are such powerful, powerful co-creators. And as I'm even saying all this, I don't want to forget that there's something in the mind. Dave, I don't know if you've noticed, whenever you get a new car, all of a sudden you're seeing those cars everywhere.
Oh yeah, there's actually
Yeah.
there's a scientific word for that or a
Yeah, it's called
phenomena.
the reticular activating mechanism in the brain.
Yeah, when we got our convertible Beetles, like, look at all the Beetles on the road. I can't believe
Exactly.
we're trendsetters. I guess no, it's it's the
It,
bias of
it,
your own.
it's called, yeah, the biology of the brain, right? Exactly. So what is so interesting, or I should say neurology, I guess, of the brain, but the it's like when you begin to establish a consciousness, you're able to see it around you. So it's good when you see a sign and or you're sorry, let me start again. It's good when you are holding an intention and creating a consciousness that then you start seeing signs that are consistent with that. It's telling you that you are beginning to establish this in consciousness. Years ago when I was, this is a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, somebody was talking to me and saying it was something about, when I was teaching, I did a program where I would bring in local celebrities and having them do programs with the kids. And they go, you always seem to attract, this type of people, but now you're going to be a minister. I go, right, I'm going to be minister to the stars. And I said it kind of jokingly. Well, in this last year, very interestingly, I have started working with more actors and actresses, that are on various programs. One recently was in a class and he had to miss the class because he was shooting a Spike Lee movie. He was acting in a Spike Lee movie, and somebody else was just in another show that happens to be on the CW network, and she's going to come on later as a guest in the show. And something that I just kind of offhandedly said 20 years ago has manifested, without any particular effort other than I love to work with creative people. But this is how powerful our word is in how we're creating. And so what was so interesting as this started happening, I remembered I had that memory of saying that so long ago as like a throw off statement. Oh yeah, I'm going to be ministered to the stars. I said, oh yeah, Ellen's going to call me. It was just it was a joke really. But you know what? The universe didn't hear it as a joke. The universe said, you got it.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I hold everything in confidence, and I'm so not starstruck by that. Finally, one of the actors said, you do know I'm in this show on TV, right? I was so low key about it, because what I see is creative people are, they're naturally spiritual because they have to connect, with this energy to do what they do. I don't know if most of our listeners probably have heard of the book, The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle. And a lot of actors actually have used that. There have been a lot of actors that have started study groups on that, because really to in their craft of acting, they have to really be in the moment, And anyway, all that said, I love to work with creative people. But when that started happening, that was a sign to me that this what was said once years ago as a almost offhanded comment was actually coming to fruition. So this is what I mean about looking for signs. It's like, oh yeah. And it helps me know, oh wow, I am a powerful co-creator. I am creating what's happening in my life. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes the manifestations are more instant. But you know what? I am creating. I am manifesting. I am working with the universe itself. And of course, as I say the universe, I am meaning the presence of God. I just think God, when I use that word God, it is so limiting that sometimes I love to use the word universe, because most of us picture God as the old white man with a beard, as I lovingly say, with the long gold chain with a big G on it, in other words, the Hollywood God. And so sometimes I use the word universe because it just opens me up to something really vast. It's like, wow, all that is is God. Everything I see, everything I breathe, everything, it's all God. So I love to be in this intimate relationship with all that is. And I love looking for signs. So what happens is that as we, are on this journey for a while, it becomes, as we're on this journey for a while, it becomes second nature to notice these things. It also, as we become more mature on the journey, it helps us avoid typically dangerous situations and negative energy, because we can read what the signs are. And so, I heard, this is Maya Angelou years ago, say, when people tell you who they are, believe them. and with my positivity and always seeing the best and trying to, always give people a second chance. Sometimes I missed some of the things that people were telling me. And as I've aged, I think it's just, the wisdom of age as well, that as I've aged, I'm getting more and more aware of certain signs and what certain behaviors mean. And so this also helps my journey, because I don't have to enter into things that are unhealthy. I don't have to, remain connected to situations that are not supportive of me and my life and my family. Right. So just think about that as you're, going throughout your days coming up, like, what am I seeing that I'm kind of discounting? What am I not seeing that is an affirmation, of my direction, of my purpose? Because I can guarantee you signs are happening. Now, I'm going to talk about the converse of that, which is, what if I have a direction and I'm not seeing any signs? Well, this is when we pause. This is when we take a pause and we just say, I'm going to reevaluate. Because sometimes we're heading a direction, we're doing so out of an egoic need. We're doing so out of a kind of drive of the personality, and it may not be soul directed. Well, if doors don't start to open, if signs do not start to materialize, then we can pretty much bet that we're not heading the right direction. Now, there are times, though, where we are to hold the vision. Sometimes we're to pause. Sometimes not seeing a sign means wait. Like, the divine timing is not now. It doesn't mean this dream is never going to be. But it means that maybe we need a pause. Maybe we need to reassess. And if you're on the journey, seriously, that's a part of it. That's always going to be a part of it, because we are spiritual souls, yes, but we're living in this third dimensional reality, and things are constantly changing. And we want to be as conscious as possible as we move forward on the journey. And so we don't want to pause to the point that we're not, moving when it's time to move. But I've really learned, if I am rushing, if I feel pushed, no, it is not meant to be. And I've had people, very well-meaning, try to push me forward in my career, saying, you need to hire all these teams, to work for you and do all this stuff. And, I've just discovered that's not right for me. I'm fine if nobody understands that. That's not right for me. And if I feel pushed, if I feel like, oh, this is moving too fast, it's not right for me. So that wisdom in moving forward on the journey, that needing to pause if you're not seeing a sign, is a very important aspect of your spiritual journey. You can't always constantly move forward. Even at the beach, there's an ebb and a flow. There's 4 seasons. Sometimes you got to go inward. Sometimes you wait. Sometimes it's time to bloom. Sometimes it's time to go in and wait. So just think about that, especially during this holy, holy season that we're embarking upon. So the season of Christmas, unfortunately, has become really in the last 70 years, I'll say, so commercialized. Mostly our entire lifetimes, we forget what it was even about. It's really not about wrapped presents under a tree. It's really about a celebration of the Christ energy that was born, that brought hope and peace, right? To a troubled people at a troubled time. And this is what we all seek, right? Hope and peace. And so as you're thinking about, this holiday season, what's yours to do as you're walking forward on your journey, I want you to remember the most holy and sacred thing this season, which is that essence, that Christ, that gift, and let that be the guide. Like, is what I'm doing, is what I'm saying, moving me toward this Christ energy? These signs I am seeking, is it about self-aggrandizement, or is it about becoming an enlightened being? Is it about becoming conscious? So this is always the goal, to grow, to prosper, evolve, yes. But we are moving towards a greater awareness of who God is in us, this Christ essence. And so even if you're not Christian, what I'm calling the Christ essence is God itself, himself, herself, that was known so fully in Jesus, right? So my hope for you this season is you don't forget what it's all about, that you get to have a time of illumination, of awareness, of peace, and of hope, and that the signs you're seeking are to move you forward in this direction. It's not about getting, it's about co-creating your life with God. And really this season is about, seeing how we can embody the Christ energy, that Christ child in every aspect of our lives. So this is my hope for you. We'll probably talk some more this month about, the specialness of the season. But dear friend, please remember to look for a sign, because God is very, very interested in you. And the universe is constantly responding and changing. So as you become clear, as you, are really on this spiritual journey, you're going to see signs, you're going to see symbols, you're going to see guides along the way, that support your forward movement on this journey we call life. So I bless you. I thank you for your time with us today. And as always, I hope that as you listen, you can make these shifts and changes in your awareness, just becoming a little more aware, just becoming a little more dialed in, just becoming a little more enlightened as you move through life, so that not only are you blessed, but you become a blessing wherever you go. This is always the goal. So thank you for joining us today, dear friend. Blessings on the journey, and we will see you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2021, Cynthia Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.